lack of interest or the value or lack of it they place on citizens. One of the cardinal responsibilities of any government is the provision of security to its citizens. Every Kenyan has a constitutional right to not only be safe and secure, but to actually feel safe and secure. The country spends billions of our tax money on the police and the military to ensure that the citizens can carry out their duties with the knowledge that they are guarded from both internal and external threats. Unfortunately, in the wake of the recent anti-government protests, Kenyans have experienced an unhinged reign of terror through brutality of the police. In some instances, the state machinery has even deployed the military on the streets, something never seen before, not even in the KANU dark days. It is only a regime that is living on borrowed time that unleashes its military on its own citizens. A government that has declared war on its own people. In the midst of the protests, the country has witnessed forced disappearances on a national scale. Abductions of young men and women from all corners of the country. Some have reappeared tortured, like Joshua Okayo from the Kenya School of Law, students' governing body, the president actually of that body, and Denzel Omondi, a student at Jomo Kenyatta University, whose lifeless body was found deserted in a quarry in Juja. We are now talking of bodies found in yet another quarry. We know that many others are fighting for their lives in hospitals with injuries inflicted by the security agencies, who are supposed to be keeping us safe, but instead blood spilled on the streets as a result of state brutality. Even before our tears are dry, Kenyans are shocked to see macabre scenes of dead bodies discovered in a pool of sewage wrapped in plastic bags. The similarity in the manner of killing and how bodies of the victims are wrapped speaks of a well-planned mass execution or extrajudicial killings. The government cannot shed crocodile tears like a helpless entity. It is either these executions and disappearances are acts of a criminal government or a rogue government, or that it has failed in its most sacred duty of protecting and defending human life. Whether the murders are as a result of complicity by the state agencies or their inability to protect citizens, the only way out of this is for the entire Ruto regime to go. A government that is at war with its own people can no longer claim legitimacy to govern. The investigative bodies that are mandated, like the DCI, have lost their credibility. In fact, the prevailing opinion is that DCI is complicit in the massacres. And what is the wisdom of placing all the security institutions in the hands of the same people, when the Constitution talks of geographical spread? The Independent Police Oversight Authority and the Kenya National Human Rights Commission should move with dispatch and investigate. This is because any investigation by DCI will remain suspect. We actually think citizens are on their own. Citizens are outraged and through democratic civil disobedience have popularly exercised direct mandate under Article 1 of the Constitution, calling for the exit of the entire government. The resignation of the IG, Japheth Koome, is not enough. It is not about names. It's about an entire system. The police machinery that is terrorizing Kenyans today is still in place. The senior officers in Nairobi who have unleashed terror, murder, and mayhem are still in place. Even faces of Koome will not do. We need a shake-up of the entire leadership of the police force. The horrifying gangland-style massacres only happen in failed states, where the rule of the mighty prevails. Kenya cannot be allowed to descend to that route. Citizens have popularly expressed their disapproval of the incumbent regime. They have passed a vote of no confidence in the most practical manner possible. In developed democracies, when disapproval of this magnitude is expressed, governments resign, entire governments. There is nothing insulating the Kenyan government other than the impunity with which they carry on their business. If indeed they can hear the people, they should have exited by now. Causing a section of the cabinet, even if it is the larger part, to go is not enough. Our young people and majority of Kenyans have faced the brutality of the police. They have sacrificed their sweat. They have sacrificed their time. Most regrettably, many have paid the ultimate price with their lives, trying to pass the message to this tone-deaf Ruto regime. To prevent further unnecessary confrontations and loss of life, we call upon William Ruto to heed the people's voice and to exit the stage, to resign. Enough is enough to corruption, to incompetence, and to brutality. John F. Kennedy once said, "Those who make peaceful evolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable." Kenya doesn't need to go that way. We have to do everything in our power to avoid this from happening and to save our country. Once again, we are saying that William Ruto has lost, and it's not just Ruto. Ruto symbolizes the entire regime. So those who think that when people call for Ruto to go, it means Ruto goes and somebody else is left behind, they are mistaken. This is a loss of confidence in the total regime. It's about William Ruto and his entire regime and complement exiting the stage. The government is irredeemably corrupt, opaque, and murderous. Actually treasonous, if I may use his words. A regime that kills its people is treasonous. So he should apply his own words to himself and his regime. It is evident that this regime holds little or no value for human life and continues to perpetrate violence on its own people. We should not forget that on the 25th of June, there were snipers on the roof of Parliament. The work of snipers is to kill, is to put people out. So whatever other things that were done by hired goons were done to justify the murder of innocent Kenyans. We are asking, is it possible, the way the DCI was explaining today, that an individual can murder more than 10 women, dismember them, place them in sacks, transport them to a quarry next to a police station without detection and in a crowded area. The only people with the capacity to do that kind of industrial scale criminal enterprise is state agencies gone rogue. Dump sites normally attract people who are scavenging on them. So anybody going to a dump site is likely to encounter other people. The only people who can access and condone the area and kick out everyone are security agencies, because they will scare those who scavenge on the dump site. We are saying all things point to the state agencies, rogue sections of the state agency being complicit in the quarry dumping of female bodies. Is it a coincidence that in this particular demonstrations, the Gen Z demonstrations, we have been having a lot of young women participating? In fact, you can call it almost 50-50. Is it a coincidence that we are finding dismembered female bodies at a time like this? Is it a coincidence also that we have heard murmurs about massacre in Githurai? Is this why there are no bodies in the mortuaries? Until the quarry dump site is drained and we see that there are no more bodies. Any other explanation by the DCI, by the police, is not credible. And I just want to remind us that the 2 days that the removal of bodies from the dump site has been ongoing, members of the public have been discouraged from witnessing through tear gas being thrown at them. People who are just curious and who want to know, some of them maybe whether their relatives are part of that. Why would you throw tear gas at people who feel threatened by what is happening and want to make sure? And why would there be conflicting reports of the number of bodies discovered? Why would police claim that some sacks did not have bodies? It is a civilian who was recovering the bodies. That civilian is the only one we can believe. And he has said that he was checking to see that there are human parts in each sack before he removed it. Why would the police want to confuse Kenyans on the number of bodies? Once again, the whole thing points to complicity by security agencies and specifically the DCI, who is trying to cover up. His explanation today reeks of a cover-up. And it is not acceptable. Let them get busy. We have a forensic laboratory. Let us know how old those bodies are. When is the probable time of death? Why are we being given information that is half-baked? It is a sad day, and none of us feel safe. The young women and men of this country do not feel safe, and as their parents and everybody else do not feel safe, because we have a rogue regime which we must all join hands in telling their time is up. Thank you. That's a most strange thing for him to say. The only person we are sure is sponsored by foreign elements is him, because he has proved to be a puppet of Western masters. He hardly can put his foot down in Kenya. If it were not for the Gen Z, God knows whether he would have covered 10 countries in that short space. But the fear of the Gen Z have kept him home. Who would be able to pay all the masses, all the humanity that has come out? Even his own very corrupt regime cannot be able to mobilize such crowds, and not in 35 counties. So I just want to remind him the only person funded by foreign masters and who plays to their music is you, William Ruto. not the Gen Z. I am not here to answer those questions, but our constitution does envisage a people's revolution. When it says that the people can exercise power directly, not through their elected representatives, the general recall of the Ruto regime is by people exercising their power directly. They don't need signatures, they don't need to go through anywhere. And it is the constitution that says so. I am sure there are many opinions on the steps to follow next, but they are in that very constitution we passed in 2010. And we must also ask what happens in countries where the entire government resigns. Would we believe an IBC that is put in place by William Ruto now that we know him the way we know him? It looks like a zero-sum game. The answers are in the Constitution. That's a discussion for another day. Yeah. And dialogue is not necessary. What dialogue is necessary? To get all the senior officers in Nairobi who have been in place when this is happening to go home or be suspended. What dialogue is needed? To get police officers whose faces have been in the media shooting wantonly, killing people. What dialogue is needed for them to go home? And what dialogue is needed on corruption? What dialogue is needed for the clear message to William Ruto and his regime that they must exit the stage? I think this particular Gen Z demonstrations were not by us. We tried as Azimio. We failed. Through the usual methods. Come with dialogue, before you know it, co-option and compromise. Let us allow our children space to bring accountability to this country without necessarily trying to take them over. Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk only of Kware. And I'm saying, just picture it in your mind. Which individual can kill 10 women, dismember them, place in sacks, carry one by one, or maybe with a truck, and then remove them one by one and carry? It's an operation that requires more than one. It is inconceivable. And that's why we say all the suspicion is directed towards the security agencies and following the throwing of Denzel into a quarry. It points to a method popular with rogue state officers and state agencies. Yeah. Please let us not dilute beyond.